There is a moment in life, a sacred moment, when you no longer wait for the world to approve of your dreams. You no longer need the applause, the evidence, or the signs. You simply decide. You decide to act, to speak, to walk, to breathe, as if your biggest success is no longer in the future, just but standing at your door, knocking. And when you make that decision, not in fear or fantasy, but in knowing, something in the universe shifts. Something in the atmosphere rearranges itself to respond to you, as if the entire cosmos had been waiting for you to remember who you are. This is not about pretending. It's not about faking confidence. It's not a game of imagination. It is alignment. Sacred, bold, undeniable alignment. When you act as if your greatest success is already yours, you're not delusional. You're obedient to a higher knowing. You are walking in the vibration of truth before the facts catch up. You are not chasing success. You are becoming the version of you that success is chasing. And let me tell you something that most people will never understand until it's too late. Success doesn't arrive when you are finally ready. Success arrives when you begin to live as if it already belongs to you. The universe does not respond to your need. It responds to your certainty, your dominant state, your embodied expectation. So what is your dominant energy today? Are you waking up with dread, convincing yourself that your breakthrough is distant, unlikely, or reserved for someone more qualified than you? Or are you waking up with the fire of destiny in your bones, walking through your day with the quiet confidence that everything you touch is blessed? Every step you take is sacred, and every delay is divine preparation. There's a holy boldness that rises in those who understand this principle. They are not loud, they are not boastful, but they walk differently, they speak differently, they don't beg the world to notice them, they don't seek permission, they don't ask, when will it happen for me? They declare, it's happening now, and everything is catching up to me. That is the energy we are stepping into. That is the spirit this speech will ignite in you. You must act as if your biggest success is not only coming, it is already unfolding, not tomorrow, not next year, not someday, but now, right now, this breath, this heartbeat, this hour. You're not preparing to succeed. You're stepping into the role of someone who already has. Because here is the secret. The version of you that receives the dream is not separate from you. It is you, the truest version of you, buried beneath delay, doubt, and disappointment. Strip all that away. Breathe. Can you feel it? That version of you already exists. The wealth, the healing, the visibility, the peace, it already exists. And your job is not to beg for it. Your job is to align with it, to walk toward it, to carry yourself with the same energy and dignity and expectation as someone who already knows the ending, who already knows the victory is sealed, who already knows that every closed door, every betrayal, every lonely night was just part of the setup. You must walk like a person who's been told the good news in advance, and now they're simply showing up to receive what's already theirs. When you shift from, I hope it will happen, to, I know it's happening, you trigger something spiritual, something that rearranges time. You enter what some call the flow, others call grace, and the ancients called divine favor. And in that space, nothing is random, nothing is wasted. Even your current reality, as confusing or painful as it may seem, becomes part of the manifestation. Because now, you're no longer reacting to life, you're creating it. Success doesn't ask, are you perfect? It asks, are you available? Are you living in the state of your desire fulfilled? Are you ready to feel now how you thought you would feel then? Because that's the bridge. That's the secret door. That's the access point to the version of you that already succeeded. And if you're waiting for circumstances to change before you change, you've missed the truth. You change, then everything else follows. So today, we rise. We rise in energy. We rise in belief. We rise in posture. This isn't about hoping anymore. This is about knowing. This is about carrying the frequency of fulfillment in your spirit and letting the world adjust to your vibration. This is not just a speech. This is an awakening. You weren't born to beg life for blessings. You were born to command your atmosphere with faith, not arrogance, faith. And faith is not weak. Faith does not whisper timid requests into the void, hoping something will stick. No. Faith speaks boldly, clearly, and with unwavering assurance. Faith builds its house before the land is cleared. Faith sows the seed before the rain arrives. Faith prepares the room before the child is born. Faith walks as if it already holds the victory, because in truth it already does. You were never meant to look around and ask, "Can I?" You were meant to look within and declare, "I already have." That's what it means to act as if your biggest success is coming. It's not just about doing more or pushing harder. It's about stepping into the consciousness of someone who no longer doubts, someone who knows, someone who believes that the promise and the process are one and the same. And don't mistake this power for delusion. This is not about ignoring your present. This is about transcending it. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. They are the soil where your new reality is being cultivated. And when you stop resisting the process and start embodying the end, everything starts to bend in your favor, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. There's a sacred discipline in acting as if, because the world will try to humble you. People will call it pride. They'll say you're unrealistic. They'll mock your vision because it challenges their comfort. But you must not shrink. You must not return to the smallness that made others feel safe. You must stand taller, speak clearer, move stronger, not because everything is perfect, but because everything is possible. Do you know what happens when you carry yourself like the person you were created to be? Life begins to mirror you. People begin to treat you differently. Opportunities begin to appear where once there were walls. It's not magic, it's magnetism. When you act as if, you vibrate at a frequency that calls forth the very reality you are aligned with. And that's where most people fail. They wait for the thing to arrive so they can feel worthy. But worthiness is not given to you by achievement. It is something you must claim in the dark. Before anyone sees it, before anyone validates it, you must tell yourself again and again, "I am the one, I am the proof, I am the vessel that will carry this dream to life." You must train your emotions to follow vision, not visibility. Don't wait for the results to feel joy. Feel joy now. Don't wait for the breakthrough to feel peace. Feel peace now. Don't wait for the success to feel secure. Breathe security now. Why? Because your outer world is an echo. It cannot lead, it can only follow. And the longer you wait for something external to give you internal permission, the longer you'll be trapped in a loop of delay. Break the loop. Stand up and decide that today is the day you stop begging for scraps when the feast already has your name on it. The table is set, the door is open, and the only question remaining is, will you walk in like you belong there? The truth is, most people sabotage their own future because they can't see past the evidence of the present. But visionaries, they see what isn't yet visible. They feel what hasn't yet taken form, and they move in a way that commands reality to align. Not someday, now. So I ask you this, if your biggest success truly was coming, if it was already signed, sealed, and being delivered, how would you show up today? Would you hesitate to speak your truth? Would you continue playing small to fit in? Would you keep hiding your gifts, dimming your light, second-guessing your instincts? Or would you rise? Would you sit taller in the room? Would you begin to dress, speak, move, and create like someone who knows they're on the verge of a divine appointment? Because the truth is your greatest moment is already on its way. And you don't need to chase it. You don't need to force it. You just need to become the version of you that already lives inside the result. Walk in that posture, speak with that clarity, move with that certainty. This is your moment of shift, your invitation to leave behind the mindset of waiting and step fully into the mindset of arrival. Act as if your biggest success is coming, because it is, and it's looking for the version of you who believes it already has. Why belief before evidence is the gateway. There is a sacred paradox that governs all true transformation. You must believe it before you see it. The world teaches the opposite, that proof is the precursor to trust, that results must appear before belief is earned, that visibility is a requirement for conviction. But if you follow that pattern, you will always remain a prisoner to the present. You will become reactive, not creative. You will surrender your power to external circumstances and call it realism, when in truth it is self-abandonment. Belief is the blueprint. It's the inner architecture of the world you are building. It is the signal you send out into the field of possibility. And when that belief becomes dominant, not as a passing wish, but as a settled state, the unseen begins to obey your inner image. The invisible responds to the instruction written in your energy. That is the law. If you wait for evidence before you believe, you are too late. Because what you are seeing now is simply a result of what you've already believed. You are living in the residue of past assumptions. Your current environment is not a prophecy. It is a mirror. It reflects your internal commitments, not the fullness of your potential. So when you choose to believe before the manifestation, you are doing something radical. You are overriding the patterns of delay. You are rewriting the signal. You are stepping into creative power. You are in essence saying, I am the cause. My belief is the seed. And I no longer require proof to justify what I already know in my spirit. Look around at the people who create extraordinary lives. The ones who rise from nothing, the ones who make the impossible look effortless. They were not born with different DNA. They simply lived from the outcome before the outcome arrived. They didn't ask, what if it fails? They asked, who do I need to become to carry this vision? They didn't wait for validation to believe. They walked as though the world had already said yes. And because of that internal decision, the external world had no choice but to reflect it. That is not arrogance, that is alignment. Belief before evidence is not foolishness. It is the truest form of faith, not religious faith, but spiritual faith. A deep vibrational knowing that everything seen was first born unseen. That reality itself is plastic, bendable, responsive, and your belief is the hand that molds it. So pause and reflect. What are you believing right now? Not what are you hoping for, not what are you working toward, but what do you believe, deep beneath your words, beneath your effort, beneath your affirmations. Because your reality is being shaped not by what you say you want, but by what you believe is inevitable. If in your heart you believe success is for others, if in your heart you believe you're always behind, if in your heart you believe you're not enough, then that belief will continue to govern your outcomes, no matter how hard you work or how many goals you set. But if you begin to carry the belief that your biggest success is already in motion, if you begin to live from the end, not toward it, if you begin to hold the frequency of completion, not confusion, then reality will begin to mirror that knowing in ways you cannot yet imagine. You are not a passive participant in your destiny. You are a co-creator, and your belief system is the internal code that instructs the world around you. You are not here to predict what will happen. You are here to declare what is already done, and then walk in the confidence that your words are being fulfilled, even when you cannot yet see the evidence. The doorway to your greatest success is belief, not just belief in general, but belief that precedes facts, belief that holds steady when the data contradicts it, belief that plants seeds without doubting the soil, belief that stands in the darkness and says, light is here, and does not flinch when the room stays dim a little longer. This is the type of belief that transcends logic, not because it is irrational, but because it is higher than reason. It is divine knowing. It is spiritual instruction. It is what the ancient sages understood long before science caught up, that mind precedes matter, that consciousness creates conditions, that the invisible is the root and the visible is the fruit. So the real question is no longer, can it happen? The real question is, will I believe long enough for it to arrive? Because every dream, every goal, every desire you've whispered to yourself late at night is already alive in another realm, waiting for your belief to become stable enough to let it through. Your belief is the permission slip. It's the gatekeeper. It is the energetic green light that says, I am ready to hold the thing I once only imagined. But if your belief flickers with every obstacle, if you stop showing up when things feel delayed, if you speak doubt louder than faith, you're sending mixed instructions. You're building the bridge, then tearing it down in the same breath. That's why belief must become a lifestyle, not a moment. It must become the soil you live in, not something you visit when you feel inspired. You cannot build a palace of abundance on the foundation of fear. You cannot plant wealth in soil soaked in insecurity. You must choose to believe before it makes sense, before people approve, before it's comfortable. Because that's the doorway few are willing to walk through, the space where nothing around you confirms your inner knowing, and still you keep moving. And something remarkable happens in that space. The world begins to bend, subtle shifts, sudden ideas, random opportunities, people showing up at the right time, answers where you once saw silence. Everything begins to organize itself not around what you have, but around who you're becoming. This is not magic, this is law. When your internal world becomes louder than your external world, you become a magnet for miracles. When your identity is rooted in completion, not lack, the universe delivers according to your signal. It's not watching your actions alone, it's listening to your certainty. And certainty doesn't shout, it doesn't panic, it simply is. Imagine a person walking through a storm without flinching. Not because the rain isn't real, but because they know the sun is coming. That's belief before evidence. That's what faith looks like in practice. It's not absence of difficulty. It's the refusal to be defined by it. And when you act as if your biggest success is coming, when you embody that reality, even in the smallest details, the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you rest, the way you treat others, you send out a signal that you are no longer chasing, you are claiming. There's a posture to belief, a presence. It doesn't always need words. Sometimes it's just the way you carry yourself, the calmness in your energy, the softness in your voice, the resilience in your silence. People feel it, even if they can't name it. They'll say you're different. They'll wonder why you're not anxious, why you're not competing, why you're not reacting. But deep down, you'll know. It's because your success is already real to you. You've stopped auditioning for a future that's already yours. You see, belief is the most dangerous force in the world. Dangerous to fear, dangerous to delay, dangerous to doubt. Because once you believe deeply, consistently, and without apology, nothing outside of you can block what's meant for you. No rejection, no betrayal, no delay, no detour. You become unshakable, unstoppable, and you begin to realize that success is not a destination, it's a vibration, and you are the one who decides to tune in. So right now, in this moment, ask yourself, what would it feel like to live today as if everything was working for you? How would you sit if you already knew the deal was done? How would you speak if you already knew the money, the healing, the breakthrough, the opportunity was finalized in heaven and just waiting to arrive in time? How would you walk into that room? How would you show up for yourself? Because when belief becomes your baseline, not just a peak during good days, but a floor beneath your feet, you enter a flow where success doesn't feel forced. It feels natural. Because you've become the person who belongs in that outcome. You've aligned your energy, your identity, and your vision with what is already yours. And that's the gateway. Not effort alone, not planning alone, but belief before evidence. This is how your future is shaped, not by waiting, but by becoming, not by watching the clock, but by adjusting your consciousness, not by hoping one day things will shift, but by deciding that they already have, and living as if every step is sacred, because it is. You are not waiting for your life to begin. You are stepping into the chapter where it already has. Believe that, and the world will believe with you. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. Most people spend their entire lives chasing what they want, unaware that they are not truly attracting what they desire, but what they are aligned with. The law is simple and absolute. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. Your life is a mirror, not of your wishes, but of your being. Desire in and of itself is not enough. Wanting to be wealthy while living in lack will not shift your reality. Wishing for love while vibrating in fear will not attract it. Hoping for peace while dwelling in chaos will never produce rest, because life responds not to your longing, but to your identity. And identity is not formed by words, it's formed by energy, by embodiment, by the version of you that shows up daily, not just when you're inspired, but especially when you're not. So the real transformation begins not when you set a goal, but when you become the version of you who already lives in the outcome. Let that settle in for a moment. You already know what you want, but who are you when no one is watching? Who are you in your private moments, in your conversations with yourself, in your expectations when you lie in bed at night and replay the day? That internal self, the silent narrator of your life, is what the world is responding to. It's not about acting positive, it's about becoming positive. Not about repeating affirmations mindlessly, but about letting those affirmations rewrite the emotional tone of your being. Because at your core, you are not attracting from thought alone, you are attracting from state, from the sum total of your assumptions, your feelings, your beliefs, and your habits. So if you feel stuck, ask yourself, what version of me is running this moment? The one who still feels undeserving? The one who still carries the betrayal? The one who still needs outside approval to feel powerful? Because you may want growth, but if you are still showing up as the version of you who fears it, your life will match the fear, not the desire. And here's the key. Becoming isn't a performance. It's a return, a remembering. It's peeling away the layers of conditioning, trauma, and lies that made you believe you weren't already enough. It's rediscovering your original design, the one that was always aligned with success, with wholeness, with abundance. You don't have to force anything. You simply have to stop pretending that your current identity is your final one. Every day life is asking you, will you be the version of you that matches your dream or the version that matches your history? And every choice you make, every thought you entertain, every action you take is a vote for who you are becoming. It's not about waiting for a major moment of change. It's about shifting now, in the smallest decisions, in the subtle responses, in the energy you bring to a room. Because the compound effect of alignment is what opens the floodgates of transformation. The version of you that already has the success you crave, how do they wake up in the morning? How do they handle criticism? How do they move through fear? What do they no longer tolerate? What do they no longer entertain? Success is not an event that rescues you from who you are. Success is an extension of who you've become. So if you want to change your world, stop adjusting the outside. Start adjusting the self. Upgrade the software within. Rewire the assumptions that say, I can't, I'm not ready, it's not for me. Because those silent agreements are binding your future to a past that's already expired. You must shift your state, not just your behavior, not just your goals, but your state. When you change your state, your reality recalibrates. You no longer chase outcomes, you carry them, you radiate them, you walk into rooms differently, and those rooms begin to echo your frequency back to you in the form of open doors, divine timing, and unexpected favor. This is the inner work that few want to do. It's easier to chase strategies than to change your self-concept. But the truth is, without the identity shift, all external gains are temporary. You might win for a moment, but if your internal blueprint still screams unworthy, you'll find a way to sabotage, delay, or diminish your blessings. Because you don't get what you want, you get what you are. The most dangerous illusion in personal growth is the idea that you can upgrade your life without upgrading your identity. That somehow, by changing your circumstances, your job, your relationship, your bank account, you will finally feel different. But if your identity remains tied to the same limiting beliefs, to the same scarcity programs, to the same emotional wounds you've carried for years, you will sabotage any breakthrough you manage to experience. You'll find yourself back where you started, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, because you changed the outer reality but never restructured the internal foundation it was built upon. You must understand that your current reality is not a reflection of your goals. It's a reflection of your self-concept. The world around you isn't telling you what's possible. It's revealing what you believe you are worthy of. And worthiness is not a label someone hands you. It's an energetic posture you must embody. If you walk through life constantly seeking validation, approval, or permission to feel valuable, then even the greatest opportunities will feel unreachable. They may appear briefly, but you won't recognize them as yours. You'll question whether you deserve them. You'll wonder if you can sustain them. And the moment you do, you begin the slow process of repelling what you prayed for. Identity is everything. It determines the quality of your decisions, the boundaries you set, the relationships you attract, and the risks you're willing to take. When you shift who you are at the core, your entire life shifts with it. Not because something magical happened outside of you, but because something permanent changed within you. The future bends for those who refuse to carry yesterday's self into tomorrow. If you want to attract abundance, become abundant in spirit. If you want deep love, become someone who embodies deep self-respect. If you want freedom, release the mental prison you've built through years of fear and self-doubt. And if you want success, become the version of you who believes beyond logic that success is your natural state, not an accident, not a miracle, but a reflection of your alignment. Too many people build elaborate plans with identities that can't sustain them. They journal about the life they want, but still think like someone who has failed. They vision board luxury, but still walk like someone who's been rejected. They talk about impact, but still carry the emotional DNA of invisibility. And when the outcomes don't come, they blame God, they blame the world, they blame timing. But they never turn inward long enough to ask, who have I been becoming in the quiet moments when no one is watching? This isn't about being perfect, it's about being intentional. You don't need to have all the answers, but you must carry a consistent vibration. You must show up each day with the commitment to become a living, breathing mirror of the reality you want to create. The old version of you may have been filled with doubt, but this version walks differently. Not because the path is easier, but because the inner atmosphere is cleaner, clearer, and more powerful. When you act as if your biggest success is coming, you begin to strip away everything that doesn't match it. You let go of relationships that drain you. You no longer waste time arguing for your limitations. You stop performing humility for people who are secretly threatened by your light. You become focused, aligned, whole, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've decided that you are already enough to live the life you see in your spirit. And the world will begin to echo that truth back to you. You'll notice people treating you differently, not because they've changed, but because your energy no longer tolerates disrespect. You'll find doors opening, not because you suddenly got lucky, but because your vibration is now the key that unlocks rooms you once felt excluded from. You'll feel peace even in uncertainty, because you're no longer depending on certainty to feel worthy. It all begins with identity. That is the foundation. That is the container that holds your future. If you expand your identity, you expand your capacity, you expand your reach, you expand your peace, and you allow your greatest success to not just visit you for a moment, but to stay. You don't need to hustle harder. You need to align deeper. You don't need to wait for evidence. You need to remember who you are. You don't need to chase anything. You need to become the version of yourself who is already magnetic to the outcome. When you shift your being, the wanting dissolves because you realize you're no longer waiting for your life to begin. You're just aligning with what has always belonged to you. The process of transformation is not about adding more. It's about removing what never belonged. You were always enough. You were always chosen. You were always wired for greatness. The moment you become that truth in the way you think, the way you walk, the way you rest, the way you respond, the world mirrors that version of you without hesitation. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. So become it now. The silent power of embodied conviction. There is a kind of power that never raises its voice. A power that doesn't demand attention or chase validation, but shifts rooms simply by entering them. This is not the loud, performative confidence that the world often celebrates. This is something deeper, something quieter, something unshakable. It is the embodied conviction of someone who knows, not in theory but in spirit, that their greatest success is already set in motion. It is the posture of a soul that no longer begs life to respond because it already understands that life is responding, not to their noise, but to their knowing. Conviction is not wishful thinking dressed in optimism. It's not the smile you wear on good days or the pep talk you give yourself before a challenge. Conviction is a frequency, stable, centered, unmoved by delay, undisturbed by doubt. It's the spiritual gravity that grounds your vision in the present moment before the evidence has even appeared. When you embody conviction, you're no longer looking outside yourself for proof. You become the proof. You walk with the rhythm of fulfillment in your bones. You show up to life like someone who already received the call, already got the confirmation, already signed the invisible contract with destiny. This kind of energy doesn't compete, doesn't compare, and doesn't panic. It knows, it breathes, it watches without reacting, and most of all, it speaks through action. Embodied conviction is the language of those who no longer perform belief. They carry it in their silence. You can see it in their eyes. You can feel it in their presence. You can sense it in the way they say less but mean more. So how do you develop such power? It begins when you stop relying on outer motivation to access inner truth, when you no longer need to be reminded that your time is coming, because your being is the reminder. Conviction is built in the sacred space between the desire and the outcome, in the days when nothing changes, yet you remain unchanged. It is forged in the fire of resistance, not by escaping it, but by standing firm inside it. Because the person who cannot be moved by the winds of uncertainty will always attract what others only dream of. The mistake most people make is trying to force reality to confirm their belief instead of becoming so deeply rooted in belief that confirmation becomes irrelevant. They check their bank account every hour. They replay conversations, second-guessing their every word. They keep searching for signs instead of becoming one. But conviction does not chase proof. It lives as if the proof is already within. And ironically, it's that unwavering stillness that accelerates manifestation. The universe rushes to meet those who no longer entertain doubt. When you live in embodied conviction, you don't announce your goals to get attention. You don't need to be praised to stay committed. You don't seek permission to go after your vision. Instead, you move in silence, build in stillness, and emerge in power. You become a quiet storm, steady, focused, unstoppable. And the world, confused by your peace in the middle of what looks like delay, begins to take notice, not because you shouted, but because you showed up differently. There is a majesty to conviction. It separates the wanderers from the warriors. It's what allows some to keep walking through the valley without falling apart, not because they don't feel the weight, but because they've already seen the mountaintop in their spirit. And once you've seen it within, no amount of resistance without can convince you otherwise. The truth is, most people aren't lacking talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They're lacking conviction. They've memorized the affirmations, made the plans, listened to the speeches, but deep inside, there's still a hesitation, a quiet doubt, a lingering, what if it doesn't work? That one crack in their energy leaks everything. It weakens their signal. It causes them to shrink back when they were meant to rise. But when conviction becomes your baseline, your foundation, not something you try to access occasionally, but something you live and breathe, then your world must respond. People feel your shift. Circumstances begin to bend. Timing aligns. And not because you forced anything, but because you matched it. You must understand, conviction is not built overnight. It is not something you wake up with after reading one book or hearing one inspiring talk. It is cultivated. It is earned through your willingness to show up day after day as if the promise is already fulfilled, even when your senses try to convince you otherwise. Conviction is formed in the spiritual gym, where you lift the weight of uncertainty and train your soul to believe despite contradiction. It is in the repetition of inner agreement, not with your fear, but with your future. Every time you choose to act in alignment with the version of you that already succeeded, you are strengthening your conviction, thickening the roots of your belief, and becoming immovable. And here's the beauty of it. Once your conviction is embodied, you stop trying to control the timing. You stop demanding instant results as proof. You stop begging for clarity before you move. Why? Because you trust yourself. You trust the process. You trust the source that placed the vision in you in the first place. Conviction replaces the need for external validation with internal assurance. It is the quiet fire that warms you even in cold seasons, the silent drumbeat that keeps your rhythm steady when life tries to throw you off course. When you are truly convicted, there's no room left for desperation. You don't chase, you attract, you don't plead, you prepare, you don't wait for applause. You work in the shadows knowing your light will eventually expose what's been growing in secret. Embodied conviction teaches you to carry your success in your soul before you carry it in your hands. And the moment you do, the world must catch up. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. Look around at the people you admire, those who seem to radiate effortless power. You'll find a common thread. They believe what they carry is real, even if no one sees it yet. Their movements are intentional. Their speech is clean, uncluttered by excuses. Their presence speaks louder than their words. And that didn't happen by accident. It happened because they made a decision to stop waiting for their reflection in the world to validate the image in their spirit. They decided that being the version of themselves who already has the thing they seek is not optional. It's required. So ask yourself, have you been standing in that kind of knowing? Or have you been waiting for signs, for feedback, for permission to finally believe? Have you been dragging yourself through doubt, hoping something outside of you will fix the tension inside? Or are you ready now to release the performance and fully inhabit the reality you say you want? Because the truth is, nothing will move until you do. And I don't mean moving physically, I mean moving internally, shifting your identity into alignment with what you say you expect. Conviction isn't about hype. It's not about pretending to feel powerful when you don't. It's about anchoring yourself so deeply in truth that even on hard days, your energy remains clean. It's about standing so firmly in your vision that you don't crumble every time something doesn't go as planned. It's about being consistent, not just in discipline, but in vibration. You can't fake conviction. People will feel the gaps. The universe will feel the hesitation. But when your conviction is real, it becomes your compass. It decides how you walk into a meeting, how you carry yourself when no one is clapping, how you respond to delay, how you manage failure, how you treat people even when you feel overlooked. Conviction is not loud, it's composed, it's grounded, it's magnetic. And once you learn to embody it, you'll realize you never needed to convince anyone again. Your energy will do the talking, your silence will carry authority, your presence will start to draw things in without you having to explain yourself, because people and life respond to certainty, not arrogance, not ego, but certainty. This is the silent power that changes everything, not because you demanded the world to see you differently, but because you finally saw yourself differently. And once that happens, everything around you, people, opportunities, timing, begins to organize itself around the new signal you're sending. You no longer live by reaction, you live by design, by alignment, by authority. You're not here to prove your worth, you're here to embody it, to carry yourself like the person who already has the result, to act as if your biggest success is not only coming, but that it is already with you in spirit and just waiting for time to catch up. That is embodied conviction. That is the silent, unstoppable power that rewrites your life. The inner world must shift first. Before anything moves on the outside, it must shift within. This is not just philosophy. It is spiritual law. It is the reason why people can work tirelessly for years, changing jobs, changing relationships, changing environments, and yet still feel stuck, still repeat the same patterns, still carry the same emptiness wherever they go, because they never address the core truth. You can't change your life until you change the world you carry inside. The outer world is a mirror, not a master, and if you keep polishing the reflection while ignoring the source, you'll stay trapped in a loop that feels like motion but leads nowhere. This is the illusion of effort without alignment. It is the exhausting cycle of fixing symptoms while avoiding the root. You can grind all day, follow strategies, read books, hire coaches, and still find yourself back at square one if the core of who you are remains the same. You must shift the atmosphere within you before anything around you can truly evolve. This is the foundational truth most people never want to hear because it requires responsibility. It asks you to stop blaming the world and start examining the patterns you've agreed to live under. It calls you to take inventory of the thoughts you've normalized, the emotional states you rehearse, the assumptions you carry without question. Your inner world is the factory where your future is manufactured. Your thoughts are blueprints. Your feelings are fuel. Your beliefs are the engineers. And your dominant identity, the self-image you return to when no one's watching, is the architect. If you allow fear to run the blueprint, if you allow anxiety to supply the energy, if you allow unworthiness to sit at the head of the table, then what you create externally will always fall short of what you truly desire. The outer structure cannot sustain what the inner frame is not prepared to hold. The reason many people manifest temporary success only to lose it is because their external breakthrough outpaced their internal growth. They were gifted something their consciousness couldn't yet handle. They received abundance, but still thought poor. They received love, but still feared abandonment. They received visibility, but still believed they were unworthy of being seen. And so, what came in grace left in chaos, not because they didn't want it, but because they hadn't yet become the person who could keep it. So you must go inward, not once, but daily. Not casually, but deliberately. You must become a curator of your internal landscape. Tend to it like a sacred garden. Protect it from weeds of fear. Water it with truth. Illuminate it with awareness. And most of all, choose, again and again, to create a home inside yourself that matches the life you want to live outside. If you desire peace, you must become a peaceful thinker. If you want wealth, you must develop a rich inner dialogue. If you want powerful outcomes, you must become the person who thinks, feels, and walks in alignment with power. Not one day, not someday, but now. Because your current emotional home is the signal you're sending to the universe. And the universe is always saying yes, not to your words, but to your vibration. This is not easy work. It is quiet, invisible, often uncomfortable. It's not glamorous to sit with your beliefs and challenge them. It's not thrilling to deconstruct the lies you've repeated to yourself for years. But it is necessary, because when the inner world changes, the outer world has no choice. What you believe about yourself becomes the law of your life. What you assume to be true starts to shape every room you walk into, every conversation you have, every opportunity that presents itself. And here's the paradox. The moment you shift inward, you begin to need less from the outside. You stop trying to force life to validate you. You no longer need applause to feel worthy, because your identity is no longer dependent on anything external. You carry your knowing inside. You become stable. And from that stability, you attract people, experiences, and outcomes that reflect your inner wholeness, not your wounds. One of the most liberating truths you will ever embrace is this: your external life is not delayed. Your internal alignment is simply catching up. Every time you feel stuck, it's not because the world has stopped working for you. It's because your inner environment is asking for an upgrade. And not the kind that looks impressive on paper, but the kind that transforms you at the core. It's asking you to release the thoughts that no longer serve you, to question the assumptions you've carried for far too long, to stop identifying with pain and start identifying with power. Until you make that shift, you will find yourself circling the same mountain, calling it a journey when it's really a loop. And this is where most people surrender. Not because they're weak, but because they never realize that the most important battles are invisible. You can't show someone your mindset the way you show them a diploma or a business card. You can't take a picture of a belief and post it online for validation. The inner work is lonely, quiet, and rarely celebrated. But it is the root of every lasting success you will ever experience. When your inner world is clean, aligned, and anchored in truth, you stop looking for shortcuts. You stop rushing the process. You realize that everything you are chasing is already within reach, because it's already within you. Shifting your inner world is not about constant self-criticism. It's not about trying to fix yourself from a place of shame. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to settle, to shrink, to delay your becoming. It's about returning to the original design. The version of you that is whole, fearless, full of light. That version has never been far away. It's been buried beneath conditioning, beneath trauma, beneath comparison and fear. The shift is not about adding more. It's about removing what was never yours to carry. When you do that, you don't have to fake peace. You become peace. You don't have to force abundance. You radiate it. You'll know the shift has begun when your reactions change. When what once triggered you now teaches you. When what once scared you now stretches you. When the need to be understood by others fades because you finally understand yourself. When you no longer argue for your limitations or over-explain your vision to people who lack the capacity to hold it. These are the signs that your inner world is transforming. These are the markers that your vibration is elevating. And as it does, your outer world must obey. Not by coincidence, but by divine law. The world rearranges itself around the frequency you emit consistently. Not the frequency you visit when you're inspired, but the one you live in when no one is watching. This is why discipline of the mind is everything. Not just positive thinking, but conscious thinking. Choosing the thoughts that support your vision, interrupting the patterns that sabotage your future, creating new mental grooves that say, I am ready, I am worthy, I am aligned. Because thought is not just thought, it is architecture. You are building every moment with the materials you choose to repeat, and the structure of your life will only be as strong as the beliefs it rests on. So if you want to see different results, don't just change your schedule, change your inner narrative. Replace self-doubt with divine certainty. Replace fear with faith in your preparation. Replace the story of delay with the truth of divine timing. Start expecting alignment instead of worrying about how it will happen. Trust that if you are doing the internal work, the healing, the releasing, the aligning, then everything else is already moving into place. The shift within will not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, a softening in how you speak to yourself, a calm that follows disappointment, a quiet confidence that shows up before the outcome does. But do not underestimate the power of these changes. They are not small, they are the roots of a new reality being planted. And once those roots grow deep enough, they will bear fruit, not just in one area of your life, but in all of them. When your inner world becomes the source of your peace, your power, and your purpose, you become unshakable. And that is when the outer world can no longer control you. It must respond to you, because you've become a match for your highest self, not through effort alone, but through embodiment, through truth, through the invisible shift that changes everything. Stop waiting for proof, live like it's done. The habit of waiting for proof is the silent thief of destiny. It is the mindset that traps people in cycles of hesitation, doubt, and delay. They wait for the bank account to grow before they feel secure. They wait for the relationship to appear before they feel loved. They wait for applause before they feel worthy. But the truth is, nothing changes until you stop waiting and start living like it's already done. Because if you need to see it before you believe it, you will always remain a step behind your miracle. The doorway to transformation does not swing open when the world shows you evidence. It opens when you become the evidence. Living like it's done is not about pretending or lying to yourself. It's about aligning with the version of you who already has what you are calling in. It's about waking up each morning and asking, how would I think, speak, walk, breathe, and create if it were already finished? And then doing exactly that, not out of fantasy, but out of faith. Because faith is not passive. Faith is not soft. Faith is bold. It acts without needing external reassurance. It moves with a knowing that what is unseen is just as real as what is visible, sometimes more real. When you live like it's done, you begin to interact with life from a place of completion, not craving, from fulfillment, not frustration. And that shift changes everything. The reason many people don't manifest what they desire is because their behavior betrays their belief. They speak affirmations of abundance, yet their energy is still soaked in fear. They say they are ready for love, yet they walk through life guarded and bitter. They claim to trust divine timing, yet panic when delays come. The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to the energy you consistently embody. And if that energy is rooted in doubt, no amount of verbal affirmation can override it. This is why living like it's done is so powerful. It rewires your nervous system, it retrains your emotions, it reforms your identity. And once you live as the person who already holds the outcome, the world has no choice but to reflect that truth. But here's what most miss. Living like it's done is not about grand gestures. It's in the subtleties. It's in the way you sit when you're in a waiting room, the way you breathe when the email hasn't arrived, the way you hold eye contact during a conversation, the way you treat your craft even when it hasn't paid off yet. It's in the way you speak to yourself when no one else is around. Every moment becomes an opportunity to confirm what you believe, not once, but continuously, not just when you feel strong, but especially when you feel uncertain. Because conviction that only lasts when things are going well is not conviction, it's convenience. You must decide, will I live based on what I see, or will I live based on what I know? The first will always make you reactive. The second will make you powerful. People who wait for proof become victims of time. They sit and watch and wonder and worry. But those who live like it's done, they move differently. They invest before the return. They prepare before the confirmation. They honor their vision as if the world already sees it, even if no one does yet. And it is because of this posture that life begins to respond, not because they begged, but because they believed, and then behaved accordingly. The moment you shift into this kind of living, your actions gain weight. Your presence begins to carry a different frequency. People notice your confidence not because you're trying to impress, but because you're not seeking anything from them. You're not trying to convince anyone. You've already convinced yourself, and when your own belief becomes louder than the world's silence, you become magnetic. One of the most powerful transitions you will ever make in your life is the move from hoping it happens to living like it's already done. This is not arrogance. This is not fantasy. This is spiritual maturity. It means you've stopped negotiating with fear and started aligning with truth. It means you finally recognize that your energy is the invitation, and the way you show up daily is either affirming your breakthrough or postponing it. Every time you speak from a place of doubt, you are rehearsing lack. But every time you embody confidence, even when nothing looks different yet, you are casting votes for the reality you want to live in. Eventually, those votes accumulate, and reality bends. But here is the test. Can you still live like it's done when everything around you screams otherwise? Can you walk like a winner when life hands you losses? Can you keep speaking vision when others speak only what they see? This is where most give up. They assume the delay is a denial. They confuse silence for rejection. They think waiting without evidence is foolish. But if you truly understand the laws of creation, you know that everything begins invisibly. The roots grow before the branches. The formation happens underground, in the dark, in the quiet. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't real. In fact, the most real things are often the ones hidden from sight, like faith, like peace, like identity. You were never meant to build your life only around what's visible. If you do, you become a slave to circumstance. You become addicted to reassurance. You start measuring your value by metrics. You start chasing moments instead of becoming momentum. But when you live like it's done, you build from the inside out. Your life becomes a reflection of your soul's stability. You walk into meetings differently. You handle delays with wisdom. You speak less but with more impact. Because now your life is no longer defined by temporary conditions. It's anchored in eternal conviction. And here's what happens when you maintain this posture long enough. The world begins to shift. People begin to see you through the lens you hold for yourself. Opportunities begin to organize themselves around your energy. Random coincidences start aligning perfectly, and when they do, it won't surprise you because you weren't waiting in disbelief. You were already living in alignment. The outside simply caught up with the inner decision you made long ago. But let me warn you, the transition into this way of living will be tested. There will be moments when the silence feels loud, when your actions feel pointless, when you wonder if all of this alignment talk is just wishful thinking. And in those moments, your job is not to panic. Your job is to persist. Your job is to remember that proof is not a prerequisite for power, that the people who change the world are not the ones who waited for guarantees. They are the ones who showed up consistently long before there was applause, long before the crowd gathered, long before the world recognized what they were building. You must become so saturated with the energy of completion that nothing shakes you, that you don't need signs to keep going, that you don't need results to feel blessed, that you don't need an audience to keep delivering excellence. Because when your spirit is anchored in the truth that it is already done, your life becomes inevitable, not rushed, not forced, inevitable. This is what separates those who touch greatness from those who chase it forever. Greatness is not something you stumble into. It is something you become through repeated alignment with your highest self, through daily choices to live not by what you see, but by what you know, through the discipline of behaving like the outcome is guaranteed, not because you're delusional, but because you've done the inner work to make it real. So today ask yourself, are you living like it's done, or are you still waiting for life to prove it to you? Are you acting from vision or reacting to conditions? Are you radiating certainty or rehearsing confusion? Because in the end, what you embody most consistently will be what you experience, not because the world gave it to you, but because you gave it to yourself first. Live like it's done, speak like it's done, move like it's done, and watch how quickly life responds. You are already becoming what you seek. You have come far, not just in listening to these words, but in remembering something your soul has always known, that your life does not begin when the breakthrough comes. It begins when you decide to become the person who already holds it. And perhaps the greatest realization of all is this: your biggest success is not on the way, it's already here. It has been waiting patiently for you to meet it at the level of faith, identity, and energy it requires. There is no more room to wait, no more excuses to entertain, no more time to postpone the version of yourself that's ready to lead, to serve, to rise. You cannot continue outsourcing your future to circumstances or timelines. You cannot keep telling yourself that you'll feel confident once the world confirms you. Confidence is not a gift you receive from others. It is a decision you make in silence. It is a fire you light from within, not because you've earned it, but because you've remembered it was always there. The people who build extraordinary lives are not waiting for signs. They are not waiting for applause. They are not waiting for clarity. They decide, they declare, and then they move. Not recklessly, but relentlessly. They build the house while the storm is still raging, because they know that by the time the sun rises, their foundation will already be strong. They don't hope the world changes for them, they change themselves, and the world adapts. This is your moment to claim that kind of power, to step out of the waiting room of your own destiny and walk through the door you've been standing in front of for years. Every doubt, every delay, every disappointment, it all led you here, not to punish you, not to slow you down, but to sharpen you, to strip away the parts of you that were never meant to carry the weight of your success. You were not denied, you were developed. And now it's time to live like the door is open, because it is. Walk like the path is already clear, because it is. Speak like the victory is already secured, because it is. You've spent enough time dimming your light to make others comfortable, enough time shrinking your energy because you were afraid to look arrogant, enough time waiting for permission to be who you already are. The truth is, you never needed permission. You needed alignment. You needed a moment like this to remember that your life is not waiting to happen. It's been calling to you all along, and now you finally have the courage to answer. You will still have moments of fear. You will still feel resistance. But fear is not a stop sign. It is a signal. It means you are getting closer to the edge of your old identity. It means you are brushing up against the limits of who you used to be. And when that happens, you must not turn back. You must lean in. You must keep walking. Because every time you act in alignment with the life you say you want, you dissolve the identity that's been holding you back. And with every small act of courage, you become more of the person who already lives inside the vision. There's no secret anymore, no missing key. You've heard the truth. You felt it resonate in your bones. You don't need another plan. You don't need another delay. You need to start living like it's done. Even if your bank account hasn't changed, even if the call hasn't come, even if no one claps, especially then, because that's the test. Can you carry the vibration before the manifestation? Can you trust what your soul knows, even when your senses don't agree? Because if you can, everything will change, and not gradually, but radically. Time will collapse, doors will swing open, resources will appear, people will find you, not because you forced it, but because you finally became a match for what was always meant for you. The truth is, you've never been waiting for success. Success has been waiting for you to believe deeper, to walk taller, to think higher, waiting for you to rise into the fullness of who you already are. And now that you have, there's nothing left to chase, only space to receive. From this moment forward, carry yourself like someone who already has the thing they used to pray for. Let your habits reflect your wholeness. Let your language reflect your certainty. Let your presence carry the quiet authority of someone who knows the end of the story and walks confidently through the middle. Don't just visualize success. Don't just write it in journals. Live it in your energy. Live it in your being. Speak it into rooms that haven't heard it before. Bring it into spaces where it doesn't yet exist. You are not just a dreamer. You are a vessel for the dream to become real. And it starts the moment you stop trying to get there and realize you already are. So breathe it in. Stand in it fully. No more waiting. No more wishing. No more apologizing for the fire in your spirit. You are here. You are ready. You are aligned. And your biggest success? It's not coming. It's here. There is a silence, not of idleness, but of supreme power. A quiet space within the soul where the universe listens. To relax is not to surrender hope, but to trust so deeply that you no longer need to grasp. You let go of strain and control, not because you are careless, but because you understand the secret laws of creation. That which is truly yours is already reaching for you. You do not chase the stars. You align yourself with them and they light your way. You don't demand the seed to grow. You simply water it, shield it, and trust the process of unfolding. The universe is not deaf to your desires. It is attentive. It is faithful. It is exact. You see, everything you are seeking, wealth, love, healing, peace, is already yours in the unseen. It exists now, not in some future far-off realm, but in the timeless storehouse of consciousness. When you relax, when you stop panicking about the how and the when, you open the portal for it to arrive. The anxious mind is a closed door. The relaxed soul is an open gate. You do not make the manifestation happen through stress, through effort, through striving. You allow it to be drawn to you by becoming a vibrational match to its presence. You relax because you know. You relax because you trust. You relax because you already possess it in consciousness. Let the world rush around you if it must, but you remain still. Be calm in the knowing that what is for you cannot miss you. Your desire is not a cry in the dark. It is a spark ignited in divine intelligence. The very moment you imagined it, it was planted. The moment you accepted it, it began its journey to you. And the moment you relaxed into the feeling of already having it, you became magnetized to it, not because of luck, not because of effort, but because that's how the universe operates. Like calls to like. The inner shapes the outer. So stop asking when it will come. Stop peering anxiously into the future. Instead, close your eyes and feel it here. Sit in the presence of the fulfilled state. Enter into its rhythm. Feel the warmth of the answered prayer, the joy of the dream come true, the peace of knowing you are cared for by something greater than you. The universe is not trying to test your patience. It is trying to train your faith. It doesn't delay because it doubts you. It delays because it waits for you to become steady in the state of reception. And that steadiness comes from inner stillness. When you relax, your imagination becomes clearer. You're no longer polluted by fear or doubt. You create purely, joyfully, consciously. You become a vessel for divine orchestration. You stop trying to force and begin to allow. You stop running and start attracting. You stop worrying and start witnessing. Your life transforms not because you did more, but because you believed more deeply and rested in that belief. Most people think manifestation is about intense effort. They think it's about constantly affirming, doing, achieving. But the deeper mystery is this: manifestation is relaxation. When you can feel what you want and then surrender into the stillness of its certainty, that is when the miracle begins. That is when doors open without effort, when people arrive at the perfect moment, when opportunities fall into place like divine puzzle pieces. You don't manifest by force, you manifest by alignment, and you align by relaxing. So breathe, smile, let go of the tension in your chest, lay down your mental weapons, stop fighting time. Feel the beauty of now, feel the presence of the answer within you, let your entire being whisper, it is done. This is the secret that changes lives, not the grinding, not the obsession, but the surrender, the relaxed certainty that says, I am already what I desire to be. The universe isn't far, it's not withholding, it doesn't need convincing, it only needs your inner conviction. And that comes through peace, through quiet confidence, through your ability to live from the end without doubting the journey. Relax. The universe is not just listening, it's moving. Everything is already being arranged. Everything is already coming. Everything is already yours. To relax is to finally understand that you are not here to force the universe into compliance. You are here to remember your divine partnership with it. So many individuals misunderstand the nature of manifestation because they believe that more effort, more force, and more struggle will yield better results. But the spiritual laws do not bend to pressure. They respond to alignment. And alignment is only possible when the mind, body, and spirit are in a state of inner harmony, when you are still enough to hear the whisper of your own assumptions. Relaxation is not laziness, it is mastery. It is the art of knowing that what you have asked for is already being arranged in ways you cannot see. It is the highest form of confidence, the deepest expression of faith. Think of a gardener who plants a seed. He does not return to the soil every hour to dig it up and see if it has grown. He trusts the unseen process. He understands that his job is not to make the seed grow, but to create the right conditions for its growth. Sunlight, water, and time. These are the invisible allies of manifestation. The gardener relaxes, not because he is careless, but because he understands how life works. He honors the process. The same is true for you. When you have planted your desire through imagination and faith, the most powerful thing you can do next is relax and prepare to receive. Worry is like digging up the seed. Anxiety is like overwatering. Desperation chokes the soil, but calmness nourishes. Relaxation breathes life into what you have claimed within. When you relax, you step into agreement with your higher self. You affirm that the world you desire is not something distant, but something forming now in the unseen. You signal to your subconscious mind that there is no danger, no lack, no reason to fear, and the subconscious obeys your state of being. It is not interested in words. You can declare all the affirmations in the world, but if they are soaked in fear, they do not reach the level of creation. However, when you say nothing but carry the stillness of knowing, the universe moves mountains in your favor. The relaxed soul sends out a signal of wholeness, of completion. It says, I am already what I desire to be, and the world must mirror that. Relaxation dissolves resistance. When you are tense, your energy is split. Part of you may believe in your dream, but another part is clinging to fear, doubt, or a desperate attachment to outcome. This split creates static in your field and blocks the free flow of creation. But the moment you relax, truly relax, you become whole again. All parts of you agree. Your body becomes soft. Your breath becomes deep. Your mind becomes open. And in that sacred alignment, manifestation happens not as a miracle, but as a law. What you relax into, you allow, and what you allow, you receive. Most people think they must chase after life, but life is trying to meet them at the level of their inner calm. There is something deeply spiritual about the act of relaxing in the face of uncertainty. It says that you trust in a power greater than your own reasoning. It says that you no longer need to know the how or the when. You are content to dwell in the knowing that it is done. This kind of relaxation is not weakness. It is the embodiment of spiritual maturity. You stop reacting to appearances. You stop being disturbed by the delay. You stop living from the outer and begin living from the inner. You carry a calm assurance that you are the center of your reality and that all things are being drawn to you according to your dominant feeling. Relaxation becomes your sacred proof that you already have what you seek. When you are relaxed, you are able to imagine more clearly. The static of stress no longer clouds your vision. You can return to your inner scene with ease. See yourself living the life you want, feel it, touch it, breathe it. And in that moment, you are living it in truth. The outer world has no choice but to conform to that internal state. There is nothing passive about this kind of relaxation. It is a powerful act of creation. It is your declaration to the universe that you are no longer begging, you are believing. You are no longer asking, you are allowing. You are no longer chasing, you are aligning. And this shift changes everything. The world has taught you that rest is earned, that peace comes after results, that stillness must be justified by performance. But in truth, the spiritual realm works in reverse. You rest first, and then creation flows. You feel it real, and then the reality appears. You surrender your anxiety, and then the path becomes clear. Your power lies not in the frantic need to control, but in the sacred art of letting go. And the more you relax, the more you realize that things fall into place, not by your command, but by your calm. Sine, you are not here to prove anything to the universe. You are here to remember your oneness with it. And when you truly remember, your heart quiets, your mind settles, your body breathes. You relax not because you've given up, but because you've finally tuned in. You no longer worry if your desires are too big. You no longer fear the delay. You no longer question your worthiness. You know that what you have imagined is already created. You know that what you feel deeply will manifest naturally. You know that the universe in all its intelligence is organizing what you have claimed internally. And because you know, you no longer panic. You no longer plead. You simply relax and let it come. What you desire is not something far from you, hidden behind locked doors or buried under miles of impossibility. It is present, real, and waiting for your recognition. Not in the outer world, but in the unseen dimension where all things are born. The physical world is merely the echo of the unseen. It reflects the inner pattern that you have accepted as real. So when you hold a desire in your heart and believe in its reality before it arrives, you are not daydreaming, you are creating. And the act of creation always begins in the invisible. Just because you cannot touch it yet does not mean it is not already yours. The truth is, the moment you imagined it with feeling, it was formed. The universe does not delay its part. It responds instantly. It is the mind that doubts, not the universe. Your desire is a sign that the thing you seek is already a spiritual possibility, ready to become physical reality. You were never meant to chase it in fear. You were meant to align with it in consciousness. When you close your eyes and feel the truth of your wish fulfilled, you are stepping into the same space from which all things are created. You are no longer outside the blessing, waiting to be invited in. You are already living inside the answered prayer, and the world must catch up with your belief. This is the great mystery that the world overlooks. It teaches you to believe only what you see, to accept only what can be measured. But manifestation is not born from what is visible. It emerges from what is deeply felt. Once a desire is impressed upon the subconscious through belief and feeling, it begins to move through channels unseen. You do not need to know how it will happen, just as you do not need to know how your lungs draw in oxygen or how your heart beats in rhythm. Your part is to remain faithful to the invisible creation, to carry within yourself the conviction that it is already done. And this knowing, this quiet certainty, is the bridge between your inner world and your outer reality. You do not need to force the desire to come. It is already seeking you. The moment it was imagined, it became yours. It is only your attention to lack that keeps it at a distance. People often say, "I believe it when I see it," but that is the language of delay. The truth is, you will see it when you believe it. Faith is not passive. It is the act of claiming what is yours in the unseen. It is the decision to stop measuring your life by what appears and begin defining it by what you know within. When you walk by faith, you move with an energy that shifts reality. You speak, think, and act from the fulfillment of your desire, not in hope, but in certainty. The world may not understand this kind of confidence. It may call you foolish or unrealistic, but it is this very boldness that draws manifestation out of the invisible and into form. What is unseen is not unreal. In fact, the unseen is more real than the visible, for it is the source. Every great invention, every relationship, every achievement began first in someone's mind, as an idea, a vision, a feeling. It was real before it ever took shape. And so it is with your desires. They are not mere wishes. They are the blueprint of your next reality. They exist now, not in the future, not as potential, but as actualities, waiting to be realized through your state of consciousness. You do not need to earn them, beg for them, or fight to keep them. You need only to become aware of them and live as if they are already yours. And how do you do this? By revisiting them often in imagination, by stepping into their feeling tone, by allowing the emotions of completion to fill you. When you do this with sincerity, with presence, and without resistance, you create an inner reality so vivid that the outer world begins to conform. The law is simple. What you accept in the unseen, you will experience in the seen. Your inner assumptions, repeated and believed, become your life. And the more you honor this truth, the less you depend on evidence to confirm it. You become the evidence. Your peace becomes the sign. Your joy becomes the proof. And the world simply follows the pattern you have set within. So when the desire rises in you, do not reject it. Do not question its origin. Understand that it was planted there because it is already prepared for you in the unseen. You are not trying to create something new. You are becoming aware of what already exists for you. And that awareness is the invitation. The moment you say yes inwardly, the universe begins its silent work. People are moved, circumstances shift, events arrange themselves. You may not see it, but the entire web of life begins to turn in your favor. Your only task is to remain faithful to the end you have claimed, not with clenched fists, but with open hands. When you understand that the desire is already yours in the unseen, you stop asking from a place of lack. You stop pleading for outcomes. You begin to thank the unseen for what is already underway. Gratitude becomes your language. Peace becomes your posture. You stop moving as someone who is waiting and begin walking as someone who is welcoming. You do not look outside for confirmation. You carry the confirmation within. And because you do, life bends to that reality. You attract not what you want, but what you are. And when you are one with the fulfilled state in consciousness, the world has no choice but to reflect it. Your desire does not need to be pushed into existence. It only needs to be believed. The more deeply you dwell in its reality internally, the more naturally it appears externally. This is the true work, not effort, not striving, but acceptance. To accept the unseen as the real is to unlock the most powerful force in the universe. Everything responds to that inner knowing. Everything obeys that quiet confidence. When you live from the truth that your desire is already fulfilled in the unseen, you become an open vessel for the divine to express through you. You become the place where the invisible becomes visible. You become the manifestation. The universe does not answer the noise of your actions. It answers the depth of your state. You may think you need to do more, hustle more, strive harder, and exhaust yourself to make your dream come true. But what truly creates movement in the invisible is not your physical effort, it is your inner alignment. The universe listens to who you are, not what you're doing. It listens to the song of your vibration, the quiet conviction of your belief, the inner assumption you carry throughout your day. This is where the secret lies. The outer world, filled with schedules and noise and endless tasks, may tell you that success is a matter of pushing and forcing, but that world is only a shadow of the inner one. All true creation begins in consciousness, not in activity. And that is why relaxing into alignment is far more powerful than running in circles, trying to manipulate outcomes. You have been taught to measure your progress by visible signs. If nothing is changing outside, you panic. You believe the dream is slipping away. But this is a misunderstanding of how manifestation works. The seed does not sprout the moment after planting. There is a sacred period of gestation, a season of invisibility, where roots grow deep before shoots rise above the surface. And during this invisible season, your only responsibility is to remain in alignment with the end you have chosen, to stay faithful, calm, and assured, not through more work, but through more stillness. The moment you shift your inner state, the universe begins responding. People will call it coincidence, but you will know it was your alignment that moved unseen forces on your behalf. Alignment is the silent language of the soul. It does not shout or plead. It whispers with unwavering certainty, "This is who I am." And the universe responds accordingly. When you align with abundance, you stop chasing money. You embody the feeling of sufficiency, and money finds its way to you. When you align with love, you stop seeking it from empty places. You carry the energy of wholeness, and love reflects itself back. When you align with peace, chaos loses its hold on you. This is not a fantasy. This is the law of consciousness. You always receive what you are aligned with, not what you desperately want. Your energy is the blueprint of your reality. You can act as much as you want, but if your energy is rooted in fear, lack, or doubt, those vibrations will cloud your outcomes. That's why people sometimes work so hard and still feel stuck. It's not their effort that's the problem. It's their state while making the effort. When your actions are laced with fear, they send mixed signals to the universe. You say, "I want success," but your vibration says, "I don't believe it will come." And so you receive confusion, delay, or disappointment. But when your actions flow from peace, from calm assurance, even the smallest step becomes potent. Even in stillness, the universe works tirelessly for you. This is why relaxing into your state is not laziness, it is mastery. It is choosing to create not from chaos but from clarity. When you relax, your energy becomes clear. You stop emitting signals of desperation. You stop reacting to appearances. You stop trying to prove your worth. And in that inner calm, you become a powerful attractor. Manifestation is not about begging the universe for crumbs. It's about knowing you are the source of the banquet. When you stop trying to change the outer and focus on embodying the feeling of the desired result, reality begins to shape itself around your new state. There is a profound difference between inspired action and forced action. Inspired action comes from alignment. It is smooth, effortless, and joyful. It feels like the natural next step, not a task you dread or a sacrifice you must endure. It flows from within like a river finding its course. But forced action comes from misalignment. It is driven by fear, by urgency, by the lie that you must do more to be worthy of what you seek. The truth is, you are already worthy. And once you accept that, your efforts transform from struggle to expression. You no longer act to receive. You act because you've already received it in spirit. This shift in understanding is the key to unlocking true manifestation. You stop manipulating the world and start mastering your state. You realize that alignment is the birthplace of all things. When you carry the state of having, the world cannot help but reflect that back to you. That's how powerful you are, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. The inner state is the magnet, the sculptor, the architect of experience. Every result you've ever seen was first built in the unseen, in the quiet thoughts and deep feelings you carried without speaking them aloud. So if you feel stuck, don't ask yourself, what more can I do? Ask instead, what am I being? Who are you in the silence? What do you believe when no one is watching? What feeling are you nurturing in the quiet moments of your day? These are the seeds that shape your world. The doing comes later. The action will follow, but if you act from misalignment, even the most strategic plan will falter. And if you act from alignment, even a simple gesture can yield miracles. The difference is in the state, not the effort. You are not powerless. You are not waiting for the universe to choose you. You are the chooser. You are the one who sets the tone, and the universe, faithful to its nature, responds without fail. It does not judge, it does not delay, it simply reflects. So the real work is always inner. Align with what you seek, not by trying harder, but by relaxing deeper. By becoming the embodiment of your desire, by trusting the unseen more than the seen. And when you do, your world will shift, not because you forced it, but because you finally understood that reality responds to your state. And in that understanding, you become free. Living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is not a game of make-believe or a shallow attempt to convince yourself of something you do not yet believe. It is the sacred act of assuming the position of already being, already having, already experiencing what your heart longs for. This is not a future hope, but a present reality, one that begins not in the outer world, but within your imagination and emotions. When you dare to enter into the feeling as though your desire is already realized, you are no longer waiting for it, you are becoming it, and that is the key. Creation happens the moment you become the emotional equivalent of your dream. The outer world, being obedient to the inner world, must eventually reflect that feeling into tangible form. You may ask, how can I feel something that isn't yet visible? The answer lies in understanding that your imagination is not a fantasy, it is the creative workshop of God. Everything you now experience began as a feeling or an idea. And if you trace back any event, any accomplishment, or any relationship, You will find that it first lived inside you long before it showed up outside of you. So, the feeling is not fake, it is formative. It is not a lie, it is law. When you imagine with feeling and dwell in that state with sincerity and calm, you activate a spiritual law more powerful than all physical action. To live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to wear the emotions of your desire as your daily clothing. If you desire love, you walk as if you are already loved. You feel chosen. You feel appreciated. You feel embraced. Not because someone has done it in the physical, but because you have made that experience real within yourself. And this inner experience draws its mirror into your outer world. If you desire wealth, you carry the feeling of freedom, abundance, and satisfaction. You do not worry about every penny or obsess over lack. You carry yourself with ease, because within you already possess the state of prosperity. This is not pretending, it is becoming. Your subconscious mind does not distinguish between real and imagined. It accepts whatever you repeatedly feel and believe as true, and then it reshapes your world accordingly. If you constantly feel lack, worry, or doubt, those feelings will sculpt your experiences. But if you feel abundance, joy, peace, and success, even before they appear, they will become the pattern your world follows. You are always creating from your dominant state. The only question is whether that state is by default or by design. And to design it consciously, you must immerse yourself in the emotional reality of your fulfilled desire. This is why most people do not manifest what they want. They continue to think about the desire, wish for it, talk about it, but they never dwell in its actual feeling. They keep reacting to what is instead of assuming what is to come. But manifestation does not respond to thoughts alone. It responds to feelings. The universe answers your energy, your inner climate, your state of being. So if you want to see a change, you must first be the change. You must feel differently before your world gives you different things to feel about. There is no need to visualize every detail or repeat affirmations endlessly if your emotional state remains the same. All the rituals and routines mean nothing if you are still dominated by the same doubts and fears. What matters most is whether you can rest in the feeling of it being done. That's the secret. To enter the end and live from it. You walk through your day as one who already possesses. You close your eyes and go to sleep feeling satisfied, fulfilled, grateful, and that inner assumption becomes the force that reorders your world. It takes courage to do this. It takes discipline to feel rich when your bank account is empty. It takes spiritual strength to feel loved when you feel abandoned. But this is the price of creation, the willingness to live emotionally ahead of your physical reality. Not to ignore it, but to transcend it. You are not bound by what is. You are shaping what will be. And that shaping happens not through stress or demand, but through persistent assumption, through the quiet, repeated choice to feel your future as your present. Each time you revisit the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you deepen the groove in your subconscious mind. You are impressing a new reality onto the canvas of your life. And the more you do this without resistance, without questioning the timing, the faster the outer begins to reflect the inner. It is not your job to know how or when. Your only task is to embody the end, to feel it deeply, to breathe it, to walk in it, even when nothing around you seems to match. That is the work, that is the faith, that is the surrender. You cannot deceive the law. You may fool yourself with shallow words or empty rituals, but the law responds only to your true state. So be honest with yourself. If the feeling is not real to you, return to it, cultivate it, don't force it. Nurture it, let it grow inside you like a flame. Feed it with imagination, water it with gratitude. Trust that the more you remain in that feeling, the more real it becomes, and the more your life bends toward it. This is not about controlling reality. It is about becoming the version of you that your dream requires. There is a sacred joy in this process, a quiet delight in waking up each day knowing that you are already connected to your desire. You are not hoping, you are not waiting, you are already it. And from that knowing, all things are drawn to you with ease. People show up, opportunities open, ideas flow. The world organizes itself around your emotional state, not because you begged for it, but because you finally understood your power. To feel it real. The great misunderstanding that keeps so many people from receiving what they desire is the belief that manifestation must be forced into existence. That something so meaningful, so life-changing must come only through grinding effort or desperate chase. But the truth is far more elegant, far more divine. What is truly yours does not need to be seized, it only needs to be allowed. Manifestation in its purest form is not about making something happen, it is about letting something unfold. And to let something unfold, you must first become the space for it. You must be still enough, trusting enough, relaxed enough for it to come through you and into your world. This is the spiritual art of allowing. When you carry the feeling of effortlessness, when you allow the desire to gently grow within you without clinging to it, without strangling it with need, you demonstrate your trust in the unseen laws that govern life. You are no longer interrupting the flow by trying to control every step. You are no longer shouting over the quiet voice of intuition. You are at peace with what you have asked for, and that peace becomes your alignment. The moment you stop demanding and start allowing, the moment you stop chasing and start receiving, you shift into the frequency where all things are possible. There is a kind of magic that comes only when you no longer need the outcome to feel whole. When you know the thing you seek is already yours, you no longer hold it with tense fingers. You cradle it gently in your heart and trust that the universe knows how to deliver. That knowing, that deep inner relaxation, is the fertile soil where miracles grow. You stop standing in your own way. You stop creating blocks with doubt, fear, or anxious repetition. Instead, you soften, you let go, you breathe, and in that stillness, you create. This is not passivity, it is precision. It is the understanding that spiritual laws are not activated by strain, but by stillness. They do not obey panic. They respond to peace. The more you grasp at the dream, the more you affirm its absence. But the moment you let go and live as though it's already done, your whole vibration shifts. You become the fulfilled version of yourself before anything outside of you changes. And that inner transformation is the true creation. Everything external is just the echo of what you have already become. Many people think they need to work harder to get what they want. But hard work, when born of misalignment, is empty motion. It may keep you busy, but it rarely brings peace. When you are aligned, when your energy is clear, and your state is rooted in faith, what you need flows to you in ways you never could have orchestrated through force. The right people come, the right timing emerges, the right doors open, not because you chased them, but because you became a vibrational match for them. Allowing is not about doing nothing, it is about doing the right thing from the right state. And the right state is always one of inner harmony. When you allow, you become receptive to divine instruction. You hear the inner nudge that says, now is the time to act. And when you move from that space, your steps are powerful. You do less and yet achieve more. You move slower and yet arrive faster, because you're no longer moving from lack, you're moving from abundance. You're not building out of fear, you're expressing from fullness. This way of living is a return to your natural rhythm. You are not born to strive endlessly for your worth. You were born whole, and the moment you return to that truth, everything you need begins to respond. You are not proving anything to the universe. You are remembering your place within it. And when you remember, you relax. You no longer resist what's coming. You no longer obsess over details. You trust the unfolding, and you meet life from a place of grace. In this space of allowing, patience is no longer a burden, it is a joy. Waiting is not empty, it is sacred. Because you know the thing is coming, you know it's already on the way. And so you are not restless, you are radiant. You are not anxious, you are anchored. And the universe feels that. It knows when you're no longer desperate. It knows when you're no longer begging. It knows when you're no longer attached. And that is when the floodgates open. It is a paradox, yet it is a truth, deeply etched into the structure of all creation. The less you need it, the faster it comes. Not because need is wrong, but because need implies absence, and absence cannot produce presence. You must become the emotional equivalent of what you desire and then allow the outer world to meet you there. You must trust that you are not forgotten, that your desires were not placed in you to torment you, but to be fulfilled through you. You must walk in calmness, even when the outside has not yet caught up. That is the work. That is the invitation. Let it come. Stop trying to force the doors open. Let them swing naturally with your calm expectation. Trust the silence between the seed and the bloom. Trust that your inner alignment is enough, that the work you have done in imagination is the real labor, and all else is simply movement guided by grace. What is meant for you is never truly delayed. It waits for your readiness. And readiness is not about doing more, it is about resisting less. It is about relaxing into the belief that the unseen knows your name, knows your request, and is perfectly capable of delivering it in ways far greater than your mind can plan. When you release control, you do not fall, you rise. You rise into faith, into peace, into trust. And in that rising, you allow. You become the vessel through which the invisible becomes visible. You are not the one making it happen. You are the one allowing it to happen. And that is the highest form of creation. Relax, not in the way the world has taught you to relax by escaping reality, but in the way that brings you into harmony with it. Let your soul unclench its grip on worry. Let your breath return to its natural rhythm. For the very act of relaxing is the boldest act of faith. It is the quiet announcement to the universe that you already possess what your eyes have not yet seen. You have been taught that struggle is holy, that effort is sacred, that results come only to those who burn the midnight oil. But creation is not born of exhaustion. It is born of stillness. The seed does not strain to sprout. The stars do not wrestle with gravity. The ocean does not force itself to wave. All these things exist because they rest in the rhythm of their being. So must you. When you relax, you open the doors of your consciousness and allow the invisible to pass through. The energy that shapes planets, the force that holds galaxies together, is the same power working through you. But it cannot work through resistance. It cannot bless what is being blocked by fear, worry, and doubt. Your anxiety is not a badge of dedication. It is a wall between you and what is already yours. To relax is to receive, not to beg, not to chase, not to plead. You are not here to win the affection of the universe. You already have it. The moment the desire formed in your heart, the moment you felt its pulse in your soul, the universe responded. In fact, the desire itself was the echo of what had already been given. But the gift must find a vessel open enough to hold it. Tension is a closed door. Relaxation is the key. You were never meant to strive for your blessings. You were meant to align with them. Feel into the vision that excites your spirit. Sit with it, not with urgency, but with reverence. Imagine it fully, not as a desperate wish, but as a loving memory. Let it fill your body like warm light. Let it rise up through your chest and breathe itself into the air around you. This is not fantasy. This is creation. And your faith is not measured in effort. Your faith is measured in ease. Stop rehearsing the worst. Stop anticipating delay. The universe is not testing your patience. It is waiting for your belief to calm. There is a higher order already set in motion, and it is perfect. What you think is delay is just divine precision. What you call a detour is just a redirection to something greater. When you relax, you're not doing nothing. You are doing everything that truly matters. In stillness, the truth rises. You begin to see that your outer world is the echo of your inner conversation. If the inner voice is frantic, the outer world reflects confusion. But when the inner world whispers, "I trust," the outer world starts to respond with grace. When you relax, you tell the universe, "I am no longer at war with time. I am no longer doubting the path. I am no longer begging for scraps of hope. This is divine alignment. I know who I am. It is not laziness. And I know what is mine." Do not confuse movement with progress or busyness with creation. You are not here to prove yourself to the world. You are here to know yourself as the world, as the creator of your own experience. And that experience begins with the stillness of certainty. So relax. The door is already open. The current is already flowing. The manifestations you seek are not somewhere far away. They are brushing up against you, waiting for you to let go of the fight. Your role is not to make it happen. Your role is to receive what has already been written for you. The universe is about to give you everything, not because you begged for it, but because you finally remembered you were always worthy of it. Relaxation is not weakness. It is a deep return to truth. It is the moment when the surface noise of your mind dissolves and the still waters of your soul begin to reflect reality as it truly is, not as the world has trained you to believe it is. To relax is not to abandon responsibility, but to realign with the creative power that moves through all things. This is the power you carry, often unnoticed, buried under layers of worry, doubt, and the constant need to fix what was never broken. When you strive, you send out the message that you are lacking, that you are distant from the things you desire. But when you relax, you are stating something far more profound, that what you desire is already near, already present, already yours in the unseen. You become like the calm surface of a lake that perfectly mirrors the sky above. There is no struggle in the reflection. There is only alignment. And so it is with creation. The more you try to control it, the more ripples you create, distorting what is already trying to reach you. There is a rhythm to everything, an intelligent flow that governs the unfolding of life. And this rhythm cannot be manipulated by fear or forced by effort. It must be trusted. When you learn to relax, you tune into this rhythm. You stop fighting the current and instead allow yourself to float within it, knowing that it is carrying you exactly where you need to go. You stop pushing against the tide, and in that surrender you discover an entirely different kind of strength. The strength of alignment, the power of conscious stillness. You have been conditioned to believe that value comes from motion, that success is earned only through toil. But the truth is, the most powerful transformations occur in silence. The seed becomes a tree, not by force, but by yielding to the natural intelligence of its own unfolding. The same applies to you. You don't grow by stressing your way forward. You grow by allowing the energy of your intention to move through you, unobstructed by resistance. And resistance often hides itself beneath the appearance of trying too hard, of chasing something as if it's far away, when in truth, it's already within your grasp. To relax is to stop searching for what you already possess. It is the recognition that everything you desire is held in consciousness first, before it is ever seen in form. And once it exists in your awareness, it is already on its way to you. But your state must be receptive. Your energy must become a magnet, not a shield. Worry shields you from your blessing. Doubt deflects what is meant for you. Relaxation, however, opens the gates. It removes the armor and lets the current of life pour into you without interference. The moment you feel the tension in your body, in your breath, in your thoughts, that is your signal. That is the universe whispering to you that you are gripping too tightly, that you are trying to hold together something that was never yours to control. You were never asked to control the how. You were only asked to dwell in the assurance that it is already done. That assurance cannot coexist with fear. It cannot breathe in an atmosphere of panic. It needs the space that only stillness can offer. That space is created through the act of relaxing. You are not a beggar in the universe, you are a creator. But a creator does not constantly hammer and force their reality into shape. A true creator knows the value of letting go. Not letting go of the dream, but letting go of the strain. Not letting go of the vision, but letting go of the fear that it won't arrive. When you release that fear, even for a moment, the universe rushes in to fill the void with possibility. And the more you practice this art of sacred surrender, the more natural it becomes. You begin to see how things unfold not when you demand them, but when you allow them. There is power in the pause, in the moments when you do not know what to do next, and you choose not to panic but to breathe instead. You declare your faith. That breath, that stillness, that sacred silence becomes the most powerful affirmation you can make. It is the declaration that you are not operating from the illusion of separation. You are not chasing life, you are becoming one with it. Imagine the feeling of knowing something good is about to happen, not because you forced it, but because you are finally still enough to feel it. That gentle excitement, that quiet confidence, it does not come from the outside, it rises from within, like a whisper reminding you of what you already know, but forgot in your hurry to fix, to change, to do. Relaxation is the return to that whisper, and in that return, you find your center. You remember that you are the channel through which the unseen becomes seen. And for anything to pass through that channel, it must not be clogged by worry or narrowed by doubt. Every time you relax, you reaffirm your trust. You say to the universe, I am ready to receive. You open the window and let the wind in. You open the soil and let the roots drink. You stop interfering with the miracle that was already in progress. You don't need to scream at the sky to bring the rain. You only need to plant, to rest, and to believe that the cycle is perfect, that it always was. When your body softens and your mind quiets, you are no longer separate from your desire, you are one with it. And that oneness is what brings it into form. The distance between where you are and what you long for is not measured in miles or days, it is measured in faith. And faith is not loud, it is not busy, it is quiet, it is still, it is peaceful, it is relaxed. Let the world keep rushing, let others run in circles if they must, but you, return to yourself, return to your breath, return to the calm, knowing that life is not waiting to punish you or test you, it is waiting to meet you where your belief finally rests. Relax, because in that moment of surrender, you are no longer asking for what you want, you are becoming the space through which it arrives. Desire is not a sign of emptiness, it is a signal of something already fulfilled within the unseen realm. When a desire rises in your heart, it is not the beginning of a journey to gain something external. It is the echo of something already given, seeking expression in this world. You do not desire what does not belong to you. The very longing you feel is the proof of possession, not its absence. But the mind, conditioned by appearances, assumes the desire means you lack it. That assumption builds walls of delay. It tells you to chase, to struggle, to beg. But the truth is much simpler and more powerful. What you want is already yours, and your desire is how it knocks. You must begin to see desire differently, not as a wish whispered into a void, but as an awareness of what already exists, waiting patiently to emerge through you. Just as a pregnant woman feels the stirrings of life before the child is born, so do you feel the stirrings of your desires before they are made visible. You are not separate from what you desire. You are its carrier, its conduit, its womb. It seeks you because it belongs to you. It cannot be stolen or denied. It can only be delayed by disbelief or received through faith. And here lies the secret. The moment you truly accept that your desire is already yours in spirit, you relax. You cease to grasp. You no longer ask whether it will happen. You begin to feel it as already done. That feeling is not imagination in the weak sense of fantasy. It is imagination in its true form, creation. You see, the universe responds not to the words you say, but to the state you occupy. And when your state is one of relaxed assurance, you are living as though the desire has already arrived. That is the key. When you believe that what you desire has already been granted, your entire being changes. Your thoughts become softer, your breath steadier, your actions more aligned. You stop overthinking and start allowing. You stop questioning and start embodying. And in this calm embodiment, your energy becomes magnetic, not through effort, but through presence, not through force, but through resonance. You begin to attract what is yours because you no longer chase it from a place of lack. You walk as if it's done, because in the unseen realm, it is. There is no greater illusion than the belief that your desires are far away. That illusion is born from looking at the world through the eyes of the physical only. But creation does not begin in the world you see. It begins in the world you feel. The outer world merely mirrors the inner one. And if your inner world is filled with longing that feels painful, it is because you have confused longing with loss. But longing is not loss. Longing is life. It is your spirit's remembrance of something that is already real, something that your outer eyes have not yet caught up to. And your job is not to go out and fetch it. Your job is to make space for it by believing it is already here. This is why relaxation is so crucial. You cannot receive what is already yours if you keep treating it like something you have to earn. The universe does not reward those who strain. It responds to those who rest in their truth. And your truth is simple. You are the one to whom this desire has been assigned. If it were not meant for you, it would not have appeared in your heart. If it were not already available to you, it would not feel so deeply personal. So stop questioning the worth of your dream. Stop assuming your role is to chase what you are meant to carry. You carry it already. In your awareness, in your imagination, in the silent knowing that will not leave you alone. That is the gift. It is only when you stop clinging to the outcome that the outcome begins to move toward you. This is not superstition, it is spiritual law. When you feel as though you already have what you desire, you begin to act differently. You don't beg for love if you know you are loved. You don't chase abundance if you know it's on its way. And that knowing, calm, silent, and deep, becomes the bridge between the unseen and the seen. The bridge is not built by action alone. It is built by belief. Belief that your desire is not some distant dream, but a seed already planted, growing in a soil you cannot yet see. The impatience you feel is only there because you're looking at time instead of truth. You are measuring what has not happened instead of embracing what is already done in the higher realm. But just like fruit appears after the roots and stems have formed underground, so too will your desire appear once the unseen foundation has been laid. And it is your relaxed acceptance that lays this foundation. Let the desire live inside you not as a constant ache, but as a calm flame. Not a fire that burns you, but a light that guides you. Walk through life knowing you are not here to find your desires. They are here to find you. You have already sent out the signal, already activated the current. Now your job is to hold the state of fulfillment, the state of peace, the state of relaxed faith. That is the space where the impossible becomes inevitable. There is a power in this way of being that defies logic. It is not loud, it is not showy, it is not dramatic, it is quiet. And in its quietness it moves mountains. It rewrites circumstances, it reshapes your reality, but it begins inside, where you stop doubting, stop proving, stop fearing. Where you simply say, if I desire it, it must already be mine, and from that place you rest. You breathe, you receive, you welcome what was already on its way the moment the desire arrived. Because the desire was never a request, it was confirmation. Tension is not a signal of control, it is the sign of resistance. It is the physical and emotional tightening that happens when you do not believe what you seek is already making its way to you. You may say the right words, hold the right vision, even perform the outward rituals of faith. But if your body is clenched with fear and your mind flooded with questions, then the core message being sent is one of doubt. Doubt closes the door, worry locks it, but faith opens it. And not the kind of faith that is noisy or forceful, but the quiet, peaceful kind that comes with relaxation. Faith is not always dramatic. It does not always roar or declare. True faith is often invisible not because it is absent, but because it is deeply still. It is the confidence of someone who no longer needs to chase or control, who has moved beyond the need to prove and has entered the realm of knowing. When you are truly in faith, your actions soften. You no longer grasp. You no longer argue with time. You don't keep checking to see if it's working. You are relaxed because you already believe it is done. This is where the distinction becomes clear. Tension says, I'm not sure. Tension says, I hope this happens, but what if it doesn't? Tension lives in the gap between your desire and your doubt, and it creates friction in your energy. It disturbs the signal you are sending. But faith is a steady frequency. It says, I know it's mine. I may not see it yet, but it is already unfolding. And that kind of faith does not require strain. It thrives in ease. Many people think that if they stop worrying, they're being careless, that if they stop trying so hard, they will lose their chance. But this belief is born from a misunderstanding of how creation works. You are not rewarded for effort. You are not favored because you suffer. You are aligned with what you believe yourself to be. And the deeper that belief, the more peaceful your posture. That peace is not weakness. It is power. The moment you stop sending mixed signals by clinging in fear, the path becomes clear for what you desire to flow toward you. Tension is like a clenched fist trying to catch water. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hand, when you let go, you create space. You create openness. And this openness is what draws your manifestation to you. The universe does not need your stress to work. It needs your trust. And trust is silent. Trust is calm. Trust is felt, not forced. There is a difference between action born from panic and action born from faith. One is reactive, frantic, driven by the fear of missing out or losing ground. The other is inspired, intentional, and rooted in a quiet confidence that what you do is enough, because you are enough. When you move from faith, your steps are light, your energy is clean. You don't carry the heavy burden of what if, because you've already settled the answer within yourself. It will be, or even more powerfully, it already is. Think about how nature operates. The sun does not rise in haste. The moon does not rush into position. Trees do not anxiously sprout their leaves. Everything in nature moves with an inner knowing of perfect timing. And the same intelligence flows through you. But when you tense, you disrupt that flow. You declare without realizing it that you do not believe the process will take care of you. And so you try to take control, which only leads to more disconnection. Tension is often disguised as ambition. It looks like productivity, but it feels like panic. It looks like planning, but it sounds like fear. You don't need to abandon your dreams to relax. You just need to release the fear that says they won't come unless you force them. The moment you allow yourself to breathe deeply, to rest in the present, to carry a vision lightly but confidently, you shift your entire vibration. You move from the energy of chasing to the energy of receiving. You are not here to make it happen through force. You are here to become the version of yourself who naturally attracts what you seek. And that version of you is not tense. That version of you is not riddled with anxiety or obsessed with timelines. That version of you is grounded, serene, and centered. That version of you trusts the process so deeply that even in the absence of evidence, they feel the truth of the outcome. That version of you already lives in the state of having, not having everything visible yet, but having the certainty that it is already yours. This is not about doing nothing. This is about doing things differently, from a place of peace, from a place of quiet power, from the truth that life flows best when you stop blocking it with your fear. Your job is not to build the whole staircase in one day. Your job is to take the next step in faith, and then pause, rest, breathe. Let the universe do its part while you remain anchored in the belief that it is working for you. Even the smallest act done in faith is more powerful than 1,000 actions done in fear. Even a single calm breath taken with trust is more aligned than hours of planning driven by anxiety. And the beauty is, the more you relax into this truth, the more evidence you begin to see. Things start to shift, not because you pushed harder, but because you finally got out of the way. Creation does not require tension. It requires alignment. And alignment begins in the mind, in the body, in the soul. It begins in the moment you choose to believe that nothing real can be missed and nothing meant for you can be lost. It begins when you stop fighting for your future and start feeling it now. When you relax, you're not giving up, you're tuning in. You're no longer a stranger to your desire, you are a match for it. You're no longer signaling fear, you're radiating faith. And in that state, what is yours can finally see you clearly and move toward you freely. Imagination is the quiet language of creation, and it speaks most clearly when the mind is still. It does not shout or compete with the noise of the world. It whispers truth to those who are willing to listen in silence. When you relax, your inner world softens, and the screen of your mind becomes clear enough to project what you desire without distortion. Most people imagine only in fear. They envision what could go wrong, how things might fall apart, how life might fail them. But true imagination, the kind that creates worlds, is born in stillness. It is not frantic. It is sacred. In the noise of striving, imagination becomes cloudy. When you are trying too hard, when you're consumed with how and when and what if, your creative faculty becomes tangled in resistance. You do not see the end result. You see the obstacles. You do not feel peace. You feel pressure. But when you choose to quiet the mind and rest in presence, imagination becomes vivid. It becomes alive. You can feel the scene. You can sense the outcome. And in that moment, your body does not know the difference between the unseen and the seen. It begins to respond as if it's already happening. And this right here is the doorway through which the invisible Your imagination is not a fantasy generator. It is a sacred preview of what is already prepared for you in the unseen. But it does not speak through tension. You must be relaxed enough to listen, calm enough to feel, open enough to receive. The great secret is this: when you imagine from a relaxed state, you are not begging for something to happen. You are remembering what already is. You're stepping into the version of reality where your desire has already unfolded. You're becoming it before you see it. Most people live backwards. They wait to see something before they believe in it. They wait to touch it before they trust it's real. But imagination moves in the opposite direction. It says, first feel it, first see it within, first become it in your inner world. And then and only then will the outer world reflect it back to you. But that process does not happen in noise. It does not happen in fear. It happens in deep, sacred stillness. The kind of stillness you enter when you finally trust the process enough to let go. When you sit with your desire in a relaxed state, you're not just daydreaming, you're reshaping your reality. Every thought, every feeling, every sensory detail becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of creation. And the more real it feels to you internally, the more quickly the external must respond. But again, the key is that stillness. You cannot bring something into your life if your energy says, I'm afraid it won't come. You cannot call it in while simultaneously pushing it away with your panic. The moment you relax and imagine joyfully, peacefully, you step into the creative role you were born to hold. Imagination thrives in presence. When your mind is anchored in the now, when you are no longer rushing ahead or looking back, you give space for your vision to live. You start to realize that the imagination is not a tool for escape, it is a tool for embodiment. You are not using it to run from your life, you are using it to shape your life. And in doing so, you become the conscious architect of your experience. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a participant in divine design. The power of your imagination is not determined by how hard you try to use it, but by how freely you allow it to work through you. There is no forcing here, only feeling, only allowing. And that is why relaxation is not optional, it is essential. When your body is tense, your mind is distracted. When your breath is shallow, your focus is scattered. But when you slow down, when you breathe deeply and let go of urgency, something beautiful happens. You begin to see clearly. You begin to feel clearly. You step into the experience of what you desire as though it is already your truth. And the universe cannot resist a being who already feels worthy. When you enter the state of relaxed imagination, you are no longer hoping for change. You are dwelling in the change. You're no longer knocking on the door. You're already inside the house. And from that place, there is no desperation. There is only embodiment. You are becoming what you once chased. And in that becoming, you collapse the gap between desire and fulfillment. This is why some people seem to receive with ease while others struggle endlessly. It is not about luck or chance, it is about alignment. Those who create with ease are not more deserving, they are more relaxed. They have learned to dwell in the end. They have trained their imagination to live in the outcome instead of the obstacle. And the result is a life that mirrors their inner world, rich with fulfillment, saturated with peace. Your imagination is the first builder of your reality. Every thought you think while relaxed becomes a stone laid on the path of your future. And the more joyfully and peacefully you imagine, the stronger that path becomes. But if you mix your imagination with fear, if you picture the outcome but feel unworthy of it, the energy becomes divided, conflicted. And the universe responds to the dominant state, not the fleeting thought, but the consistent vibration. That's why you must relax. Because only in relaxation can your vibration become pure. You are not weak for needing stillness. You are not lazy for needing rest. You are wise. Because in stillness, the whispers of your imagination become louder than the noise of the world. And those whispers, when believed, become reality. Not by accident, not by force, but by alignment. Your life will always mirror the world you hold in your mind. And the more lovingly you imagine, the more lovingly life will unfold. Not because you demanded it, but because you were calm enough to receive what was already yours. To relax is not to surrender in defeat. It is to surrender in trust. It is the invisible act of handing over your worries, your timelines, your calculations, and your control, and choosing instead to dwell in the state of quiet knowing. It is the boldest declaration of faith you can make, not because you've seen proof with your eyes, but because you felt it with your spirit. You no longer need to see signs to believe. You have moved beyond needing evidence. You rest because you already know it is done. The world has taught you that results come through force, that to receive you must strive, that to succeed you must push. And so you have been conditioned to associate tension with progress. But there is a higher truth, and that truth is simple. What is meant for you cannot miss you, not because you chased it with clenched fists, but because you became the version of yourself who welcomes it with open hands. That is what true faith looks like. Not running, not grasping, but waiting with grace, living with certainty, being still in power. You do not relax because everything is perfect. You relax because you have decided to stop waging war against the unseen. You stop trying to pull the future into the present through force, and you begin to allow it to arrive through alignment. You give up your need to constantly check, to constantly question, to constantly calculate, and instead you live from the state that it is already done. That state is not born from logic, it is born from spirit. And spirit is not noisy, it does not shout to be heard. It is calm, it is deep, it is quiet. The greatest strength is not in the muscles you use to climb. It is in the stillness you maintain while you wait. Anyone can act in panic. Anyone can run when they're afraid. But to stay steady when you cannot see the outcome, that is mastery. That is surrender. That is the highest form of courage. You trust not because things are easy, but because your faith is not shaken by appearances. You are no longer fooled by what your eyes tell you. You have been awakened to the truth that what matters is the state within. Relaxation is not the absence of action. It is the foundation of aligned action. When you move from relaxation, your actions are infused with clarity, precision, and faith. You are no longer reacting to fear. You are responding to inspiration. You're not scrambling to make something happen. You are walking in the energy of it is happening. And that energy changes everything. It turns doubt into confidence. It turns waiting into preparation. It turns ordinary moments into sacred ones, because you are living from the end, not waiting for it to arrive. Imagine the power of entering each day not as someone desperately seeking answers, but as someone who already carries the answer within. That's what relaxation does. It puts you in harmony with your true identity. It reminds you that you are not lacking, that you are not separate, that you are not abandoned in your desire. You are the channel through which the desire has come, and you are the vessel through which it will be fulfilled. The calmer you are, the more clearly that truth reveals itself to you. There is something magnetic about the person who is calm in the midst of uncertainty, who smiles without knowing how things will work out, who walks as though everything is being arranged behind the scenes. That kind of presence is rare, but it is powerful. It does not come from arrogance. It comes from communion with the unseen. It comes from dwelling in the truth that there is a divine order at work, and that your role is not to manage it, but to trust it, to believe in its timing, to honor its wisdom, to rest in its promise. People often confuse rest with inaction, but true rest is deeply spiritual. It is the act of stepping back so that what is meant to unfold can do so without your interference. You don't stop caring, you simply stop micromanaging. You don't lose focus, you gain trust. And in that trust, the tension melts away. The breath deepens, the mind softens, and the heart opens. You become a space for miracles, not because you chased them, but because you prepared a place for them to land. Every moment you spend in relaxed faith is a moment of alignment, and alignment is the path through which everything flows. Not because you deserve more than others, but because you have cleared the resistance that blocks most people from receiving. The universe does not play favorites. It flows where it is welcomed. And nothing is more welcoming than a heart at peace, a mind that knows, a soul that rests. When you live in that state, you do not plead, you declare, you do not beg, you embody, you become. You are not being asked to abandon your dreams. You are being asked to become so rooted in your belief that you no longer need to fight for them. That is what it means to relax in faith. You know it is coming, so you no longer chase. You no longer fear. You no longer carry the weight of how or when. You walk through life with your head held high, your energy clean, your heart soft, not because life is always easy, but because you have chosen to believe in something deeper than circumstance. This kind of relaxation is not passive. It is charged with silent power. It is the energy of someone who understands the laws of life, who knows that they are already connected to what they desire, and who allows that connection to become visible in its own perfect way. They do not rush the flower to bloom. They water it, love it, and let the sun do its work. That is the essence of trust. That is the essence of faith. That is the highest form of manifestation. Let others stress if they must. Let them grasp and chase and panic, but you, relax. Stand in your knowing, become still in your confidence, and let the universe do what it was already planning to do, not because you begged, but because you finally believed, not because you fought, but because you finally allowed. Relaxation is not the end of the journey, it is the doorway to everything you've been asking for. And when you walk through that door in peace, what you seek cannot help but find you.